A survey conducted by the Small Business Administration found out that only half of small business owners had a formal business plan. While this statistics is not good enough, I can empathize with you as a business owner when you struggle to work on a business plan. Working on a business just got easier, fun, and rewarding with diversity. We are building the largest entrepreneurship ecosystem supporting inclusive business models. We're a marketplace for startup entrepreneurs to work on their businesses, push it to the blockchain, and then monetize their data and activities. Working with diversity, you are guaranteed of completing your documentations easily and getting rewards and points for every work done. Today, I would like to share with you on developing a pilot plan. But before then, I'm sure you've been able to develop the first version of your product and service, populated your idea pad, worked on your business model canvas, and gotten started on your pitch deck. I know you don't really like how it came out and you feel everything looks crappy. Fear not, every business and startup you know of once had their first version of everything, and it definitely didn't look like what you currently know. In fact, they would be worlds apart. My first organization produced its first book as a sheet of paper. I distributed about 300 copies for free, after which I moved on to producing the first 1,000 copies, which was a book. I sold that in 4 months. I did a reprint shortly after that with a new design that was more than 10 times better than the previous. And I had a whooping 2,500 copies sold at the first day of the launch. The book currently has people buying up to 1,000 copies at once. Here are some other stories that you will be familiar with. So this is TM Bookstore's first print. Um, it was just a pamphlet, like a sheet of paper, and then the book developed into this, and then finally developed into the last copy you can see. Then this is Google in 1998, and then you have Coca-Cola development, looking at it from 1900 when they started production, and you can see the development thus far. You can see the development from telephones and mobile phone technology, how it moved from the first phase to what we currently have till date. So I want to encourage you to go ahead and start with whatever product you have and allow your users provide feedback that will help you develop the product. Like I mentioned in my first video, when it comes to idea development, the key word is data. Get data and information from observation, researches, customer engagement, brainstorming sessions, expert advice, and AI. Then use this data to constantly improve on what you have, your products, your business model canvas, your pitch deck, your idea pad. Just constantly keep improving with the data that you keep gathering from your users. That's how to develop an idea to scale up your business really quickly. So no fears at all. What you have is good enough for the now. However, ensure to keep working on the idea, your products and services, your business model canvas, your pitch deck, and all other documentations. So let's head into today's session, developing a pilot plan. A pilot is a small scale test or trial of a new product, service, or business model before it is fully launched to the public. The purpose of a pilot is to evaluate the feasibility of the new offering, assess customer demand, and identify any potential issues or challenges that may arise when the offering is fully launched. Pilots are typically carried out in a controlled environment with a small group of users or customers who are representative of the target market. The pilot may involve providing access to a prototype of the product or service, or conducting surveys or interviews to gather feedback from users or customers. Essentially, it enables you to test the product before you take it fully into the market. The data collected in the pilot is then analyzed to assess the viability of the new offering and to identify any necessary changes or refinements. Pilots can help startups and businesses to mitigate risk, refine their approach to the product or service, and make informed decisions about whether to proceed with a full launch. The key word when it comes to pilot for me is sales, or selling your product and services. You need to essentially move out with what you have. It doesn't matter whether you feel it's crappy or not. Do your best to get the user's feedback and then work on a product or service that you can now take out into the market. You have to get the product into the hands of real users and start collecting their feedback. The following are benefits of carrying out a pilot. Number one is risk mitigation. A pilot allows startups and businesses to test their new offerings on a smaller scale and identify any potential issues or challenges before fully launching to the public. This can help to mitigate risk and prevent costly mistakes. For most of you, you are not exactly very familiar with the market or familiar with the industry. So the best way to try out what you have is to run a pilot test, which may not have so much risk connected with the product. And then secondly, get feedback. A feedback is required whenever engaging a pilot. A pilot allows startups and businesses to gather feedback from a small group of users or customers, which can then be used to refine the offering and improve the customer experience. Next benefit is validation. A successful pilot can help to validate the new offering and provide evidence that it is viable and meets the customer needs. The fourth benefit is investor confidence. A successful pilot can help to build investor confidence and attract additional funding to support the full launch of the new offering. I know while working on your pitch deck, you had a problem talking about your traction. The pilot helps you with your traction. It helps you to be able to prove to investors that your product is needed. Then number five benefit is the time and cost that it will save you. A pilot allows startups and businesses to test their new offering on a smaller scale, which can save them time and the cost associated with a full launch. A pilot allows you to be able to save a whole lot of cost that could have been wasted if you were to have a full launch immediately. Then the sixth is a competitive advantage. A successful pilot can provide a competitive advantage by allowing startups and businesses to refine their offering based on feedback and market demand. The pilot enables you to actually generate demand, which gives you a competitive advantage ahead of your competitors. And then finally, I consider this very important. Pilots are good ways of fundraising. A carefully planned out and executed pilot can be a tool to raise funding for the main launch. While fundraising should not be the sole purpose of a pilot, it can be a very valuable outcome and should be considered as part of your overall strategy in working towards your business success. However, the primary focus of the pilot should be on gathering feedback, testing the viability of the new offering, and refining the approach based on your feedback. How then can you plan and execute a pilot? How to plan and execute a successful pilot. Number one is to set a clear objective. Clearly define the objective of the pilot, such as testing the feasibility of the product or service, assessing the demand for the product or service, or validating the business model. I also want to encourage you to set a goal of how many of your products and services you want to engage users with. The second is target market. Identify the target market for the pilot, such as a specific geographic area, a demographic group, or industry vertical. This will help to ensure that the pilot is representative of the intended customer base. For instance, while trying to test one of our pilots for one of our businesses and one of the organizations we provide support for, we actually decided to focus on schools, secondary schools. This helped us to gain real traction. We want to encourage you to identify a very good target market for your product. The third is decide on your pilot activities. Outline the specific activities that will be carried out during the course of this pilot, such as providing access to the product or service, conducting surveys or interviews, or gathering other forms of feedback from the participants. Number three is a timeline. Develop a detailed timeline for the pilot, including key milestones and deliverables. This will help to ensure that the pilot stays on track and that all activities are completed on time. The next is have a budget. Develop a budget for the pilot, including any costs associated with developing or distributing the product or service, marketing, and data analysis. The next is resources. Identify the resources that will be needed to carry out the pilot, such as personnel, equipment, or software. The next is metrics. Determine the metrics that will be used to measure the success of the pilot, such as customer satisfaction, user adoption rates, or your revenue generated. We encourage you to use revenue generated as a very key metrics for your pilot. The next is risk assessment. Identify any potential risk associated with the pilot, such as technical issues, market competition, or regulatory compliance, and develop contingency plans to mitigate those risks. The next is data analysis. Develop a plan for gathering, analyzing, and interpreting the data collected in the course of this pilot. This may involve using statistical analysis, surveys, and other research methods. So, one very important thing you must do in the course of selling your products in this pilot is to ensure that you are getting feedback from your users, telling you about their experience while using your product. Next, after this, is to recruit a team. Very important. You cannot do this alone. Get a team of people who likely are passionate about joining you on this project or simply want to add value to you one way or the other. But get a team of people that you can work with in the course of this pilot, after which you can go ahead and then launch the pilot. If you successfully watched the beginning of this video up until now, I'm sure you are ready to plan and execute a successful pilot. I want to encourage you to use your idea pad in jotting down these thoughts together, and then finally getting a separate document where you could write all of these things down and share with your team. I look forward to celebrating the success of your business and you adding more traction to what you're achieving. Thank you, and see you next module.